Good morning, good evening, everyone. Our guest for today is Dominique Antiglio, and I'm going to introduce her in more detail. But let's quickly go over a couple of housekeeping items and then we can get started. As always, please ask your questions in the chat window and we'll make sure to answer them by the end. If you're not already a member, it's easy to be a member. Just click on the link that we'll post in the comment section. I wanted to quickly announce a couple of new features in the community, which you may have noticed starting today. And that is, if every time a podcast is announced, now you can actually add it to you can let us know whether you're coming or not. And also you can add it to your calendar. So you don't have to sit and remember. It'll get added and then you'll get a reminder right before the session. So that's something that starts today onwards. The other thing that has been going on for the last couple of weeks, but we have seen very, very good attendance on Wednesdays. And so every Wednesday, we are going to have continued this 12-week series, live series with Dr. Saurabh Sane. And it's a 15-minute session. That's it. And in these 15 minutes, Dr. Sane covers one specific aspect of physiotherapy. And he's shown some very interesting, useful, actionable exercises that we can each do. So the first week he covered vertigo, how to deal with vertigo. This week he covered neck pain. Most of us suffer from neck pain, and so I found it very, very helpful personally, and so I'm sure you will find it as well. And if you miss the session, all you need to do is sign up for that mobility, strength and mobility community, the link again, for which we will share in the comment section. But if you click on it and you join that community, you'll get the reminders for the sessions as well as you'll get to watch the recordings later on. So if you have a chance, take advantage of it. It's free and it's 15 minutes of your time that's very well spent. I've also spoken about this, but we are adding more and more experts, whether they are doctors, physiotherapists, dietitians that we trust. These are people that we would send our own family members to. And so they're on the website, for which we'll also put a link in the comment section. But these are all people you'll recognize because they've all been on the community podcast. They were people that all of you said were very, very good speakers, very credible, very trustworthy. And we ourselves have vetted them before we got them into the community. And so if you want to set up a session with any of them, you just sign up through the website. Our speaker next week is the Dr. Amit Parasnis, and he'll be talking. He's an oncologist, an oncosurgeon, and he's very, very well regarded. He'll be talking about a lot of different aspects of cancers. He's not focused on any one specific cancer. He's a surgeon across the different cancers. So if there's anyone in your life that is unfortunately going through it, he's definitely a very worthwhile person to listen to. All right. To our expert for today, Dominique is someone that I got to know, and I have just been amazed by the work that she's been doing. We'll talk a lot about, what exactly sophrology is, but the part that really appealed to me was the tagline of meditation for people who can't meditate. And we'll get into that because I think a lot of times I've heard this being said to me, I want to meditate, I just don't know how. I keep getting distracted. And I think in today's conversation, you will find some fascinating ways to think about it. While her bio is up there on the screen, my own introduction to Dominique would be, here is a person who has really embodied what she's talking about. It's not just a profession, it's a passion. And when someone approaches a problem as a passion, I find that it leads to a very different level of care and conviction to the problem statement. And I think you'll find in today's conversation with Dominique that it's not just a concept. It's something that she lives by. And interestingly, my wife has had a chance to both benefit from Dominique directly as well as see others benefit from it. These are people in different countries who may not be as fortunate in terms of access, and yet Dominique has spent her time, giving freely to people of all in all different countries of all socioeconomic backgrounds. And I think you'll see today why. And so, without further ado, Dominique, welcome to the Community Podcast.
Thank you for the kind introduction, Nikhil. It's a pleasure to be here, and hi, everyone.
Lovely. So, Dominique, let's start with, we'll get into sophrology, but tell us a little bit about yourself. What got you into this field?
Yes, so it goes back to when I was a 15-year-old adolescent. I'm born in Switzerland, so I did all my school years there. I was also, at 15, I was also an athlete, so I was doing a lot of basketball. And I didn't particularly enjoy school. It felt quite limiting for me in some ways. So, I was not every day really happy, but I was getting on with it because basketball was my passion and I could channel my energy into that. Until the day I started to feel really tired. I had, couldn't really study anymore, couldn't really train. I had episode where I was actually fainting. So fainting on the bus to go to school or at at a meeting or anyway, it became more and more difficult for me to manage my daily life without understanding what was wrong with me. Yeah. So of course my parents took me to a family doctor, and for weeks they did medical tests with me, trying to understand what is happening without really finding anything pertinent to my state. Anyway, after maybe 3 months of trying different medication because my blood pressure was so low, and anyway, they said, we don't know what's going on. Why don't you try sophrology? I had never heard of sophrology, but there was one very well recognized sophrologist in my hometown in Fribourg in Switzerland who had worked with the founder of sophrology, who was a doctor, and she had her practice there. So my parents brought me there, and for the first time, I think in the constellation I was living, somebody took the time to really sit down with me, listen to how I felt, and didn't say much, but she said, she said something like, sometimes the body is trying to tell you something and your symptom can express something else that maybe you haven't thought about. And the best way to discover why you're like this and to find a solution forward is to close your eyes, and I will guide you through a very simple practice, blending relaxation, a few movements standing with eyes closed, some visualization work, some breathing techniques, and maybe it's gonna last 15 minutes. And she was recording it on a tape, those old tapes that turn like this. And she gave it to me and said, go home with that tape, and every lunchtime when you come back home, practice this for 15 minutes and come back and see me next week. Anyway, I did it because I was so desperate to get back to training. And within 5 weeks of meeting her once a week and practicing every day 15 minutes, I completely shifted my energy. No more fainting, no more tiredness. I felt much more alive again. No more of this recurrent infection I was always getting. And more importantly, a new outlook on my life, that suddenly I could feel in control again. Like I think I realized through these exercises and her guidance how much emotion I had suppressed because I hadn't learned to really listen to my own emotion. I hadn't been given the space to perhaps express them as well. So I had added up all that stress and that tension from my life at the time without finding a true outlet for it. And I think it had taken the toll on my energy and my health. And that was my body's way to say, look, you need to pause and listen and realign how you see things and how you engage with the world, otherwise you will get sick. So anyway, that was my first encounter with sophrology, and that was so impactful that I decided to carry on learning from this amazing lady, was called Gilles Thévaux, and every week or every month until probably my early 30s, she was my mentor, and I journeyed with her through a lot of stage of my life. Sometimes I was stopping for a few months and then going back and learning more about this methodology, and until I decided to, in my early 20s, to train in it. Yeah. So
Wow.
yeah.
It's been something that's impacted you personally so much. And I think you hit upon something, Dominique, which I want to double click on, and that is, I think many of us probably carry that level of tension, at some point in our lives,
Yes.
maybe throughout our lives, and we don't realize it because it's like a frog in boiling water.
Yeah.
You don't realize what's happening. Uh, is that something that you see now that you practice this around you all over the place, where people are unaware that they're going through this? If you ask them, are you carrying any tension? The answer is no.
Yeah.
But most of us are.
Yeah. And I agree with you. There is a big disconnection between functioning in the outside world, our actions and our planning and our duties and our responsibilities, and our inner world. That sometimes it's very difficult to access and to know where to go to feel and what shall I feel actually. And also it's hard to connect with the bits or the parts of ourselves that feel uncomfortable, that feel angry, that feel tense, that feel tired. So sometimes it's easier to grab your phone and scroll on social media to kind of forget about life for a minute. And I think we have so many distractions that these days it's even easier to be disconnected from how you truly feel, because it does take some courage to actually stop and pause for 2 minutes. And yeah, but I think there's nothing really to succeed at in that space of self-connection. It's about showing up through a simple ritual on a daily basis, even if it's for 2 minutes. And over time, that connection will start to create itself naturally, and you will get more insight and more connection. So it's a bit like opening a path, and you have to repeat, and eventually you get very good at it, that you can anticipate the tension rather than having to deal with it. You feel even before it's happening, oh, this is gonna, this is gonna impact me. So now I have two choices: either I show up and I modify how I show up, or I modify what I can in the experience to make it okay for my body and mind to embrace it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you spoke about it requiring courage, right, which is true. It's easier to not have to think about the problems,
Yeah.
but they're there. And so some people muster the courage, and then they'll go for something like, counseling, which in itself is a big step. Right?
Huge. Yeah.
Is And maybe this is a good point to talk about, what is sophrology relative to what is counseling. So maybe you can explain what sophrology is, and is it effectively a different type of counseling?
Yeah. So I think it's counseling without the analytical aspects or the digging into the past. It's very much a concept that you use here and now. So basically, it's a practice. Sophrology is a practice and a methodology, and the practice consists of being guided in a set of very simple exercises where you close your eyes, you learn to dive into a state of relaxation, and then you use breathing to regulate your nervous system, for example. You use movement to bring about more awareness to your body. You use visualization to engage your mind, and many other. You can use sound, you can use all the Eastern tradition, ancient tradition, who have known these tools since century, and actually how you take the essence of these tools to positively affect consciousness, and how you blend them with the knowledge of psychology, of resilience, of phenomenology, which is really working with what is rather than analyzing. And that beautiful blend of the two gives rise to a method that you can follow step by step, or you can tailor it to a specific problem. Let's say somebody has insomnia, somebody has anxiety, somebody has a fear of flying, somebody is preparing for birth or a competition. So how can you connect your mind and body through these exercises to be able to activate within you the resource you need to cope? For example, me at 15, I needed to cope with my anger of having to go to school every day, despite me wanting to do something else. And it was necessary for me to finish that path to be able to do something else. So how do you cope and find a way to show up in your life in a less stressed state, and creates a sense of hope, for example, or a sense of confidence that you can do it, or and free yourself from all the tension that you carry in relation to those situations. Yeah, so it's a very practical way of going about resolving an issue or improving your well-being generally, or your balance, as opposed to an analytical way of, like in therapy, which has absolutely its place. You know, sophrology is here to collaborate with everything else. I don't think there is one system that works for everything. You know, you need to look at and I know you promote this rightly, Nikhil, that, you know, it's about what you eat, how you think, how you breathe, how you move, how you sleep. All of these things have to come together to create a healthy individual. So and I think the other difference that's huge, it's the presence of the body. So I think we spend a lot of time in the mind thinking about the past, thinking about the future, but eventually when you are learning to connect with what you feel here and now, and how you can shift those tensions through very simple moves or breathing or visualization, other doors start to open inside you that are not linear, or they are not analytical, and you realize that there is another sense inside you that you can lean on, that has perhaps less of an explanation, or I don't like to say this, but it's a bit less rational than 1 + 1 = 2. It's a place inside you, a place of consciousness that you discover as you practice, that becomes who you are, and you're able to connect with it much more intensely, and then lean on it when you're stressed, when life gets difficult. Yeah, so it's an experience.
Yeah, you know, you spoke about 3 aspects, and of course there are way more than 3 aspects, but the 3 that, you know, resonated for me were the breathing, the movement, and the visualization.
Yeah.
Right? Because all 3 are things that don't feel complicated or hard to do. Right? All of us can do it, and we maybe do it off and on here and there. But what it sounds like, what sophrology does is provides you a approach to each of these things. That way, whenever you face a problem, you take a combination of these 3 things, and you come out on the other side feeling better, feeling more prepared. Right? Can you, Dominique, take an example of each of these aspects? Like, what are ways breathing is done, or visualization is done, or movement is done?
Yeah. So there's a lot of combination and lots of techniques in sophrology. So there is a path of 12 level or 12 degree, and each aspect has a specific intention in relation to consciousness. So for example, degree 1 is a lot about body awareness and learning to listen to sensation and ground yourself in the present moment through a movement, through observing your sensation, through being present. And I think most of us, for example, listen to the body only when the body is in pain, but we rarely take the time to just sit, relax, take a moment of rest, and just tune and see, how do I feel today? Are there places where I have tension? Are there places that are relaxed and pleasant? Are there places where it's warm and pleasant or very relaxed? And you learn to cultivate an outlook on your sensation that actually my body is full of positive sensation. I may have a neck problem, but maybe my right knee is really relaxed, yeah? So that it's almost like you train your mind to acknowledge the tension and work with it, but equally to start to realize, oh, but there's a whole reservoir of positive sensation that I can lean on. When I'm stressed, I can let go of the tension through a move and an out breath, but I can also tune into a sensation that's pleasant. And the more you do that, the more you become aware that your body is here to support you, and it's always here with you. And when stress is coming, you can activate through a movement or a breath this sensation of this positive sensation, yeah, in your body. The breath is used in many different capacities. Sometimes the breath is used to the long exhale to be able to relax before sleep. Sometimes it's used with an intention, for example, building a sense of confidence. So you would inhale and then visualize something that brings about a sense of confidence. There are rapid breathing exercises that are taken from yoga that you do standing, and that brings about a sense of release. So sophrology is the breathing. All the breathing is valid in the tradition that we have. It's like some are more efficient for certain things, and sophrology kind of brings them into those bucket of useful, so you know where to start and you know which one is gonna be more efficient in this moment. But also just integrating breathing as a sensation and perception you have, and then it becomes your tool to notice how stressed you are, yeah? Have you noticed sometimes you're in front of the computer and you're so concentrated you stop breathing? And I think because you practice sophrology, you notice these moments where your shoulders are like this and you're typing and you forgot to drink, or you forgot to go to the loo, or you forgot to take a breath, and therefore you become tired. So if you learn that, you can relax your shoulder, take an in breath and take a pause, and it's fine, you know. You learn to regulate, yeah.
So Dominique, I have a question on that. There are so many breathing techniques, right? There is the 4-7-8, there's a restorative sigh, there are so many of them.
Yeah.
I assume that each of them helps with one specific aspect. When you're feeling anxious, you do this. When is that something that in sophrology that is spoken about, what breathing technique to use in what situation?
Yes, you can work like that. The practice is quite simple, so it doesn't go into huge detail. I think the most important thing is to realize you're breathing. You can observe your breath. You can use your breath to energize you or to relax you. If you want to relax, you're gonna slow down your breath and exhale and lengthen your exhale. If you want to bring about a lot of oxygen in your body and be more dynamic, you're gonna hold your breath. Inhale, hold, and make it maybe do a movement. So we do a lot of this distinction between a breath that will bring energy and a breath that will slow you down. And honestly, you don't need much more than that in life, because you're either or too agitated or too sluggish, and and what you're looking for always is to give the opportunity for your body and your nervous system to go back to balance. So I don't think you don't need to think about the breath in very complicated terms. But then, of course, the whole aspect of breathing, breath work itself is very interesting, and you can dive into those and find exercise that suits you. I think the most important is to practice and remember one breathing technique that works for you and use it. And I think if you start with that, maybe you learn more, but you don't need so many breathing techniques to be able to balance yourself in your daily life. It's pretty simple. It should stay simple. Otherwise, you get lost. You say, oh my God, I'm in the car and I'm angry now. Which breathing technique do I use? Yeah, that's too complicated. Just breathe first. That's already breathe with awareness and lengthen your out breath. And in most cases, it will already be amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, in many ways, the 4-7-8 has all the fundamental elements, right? It is a longer breathing out than breathing in. There is the hold. And so I personally found, for me, the two that help the most, and they're the only two I really use, is the 4-7-8 and that restorative sigh, where you take that big inhale, one more on top of that, and then a slow exhale.
That's very powerful. And that's one of the breathing technique that has been researched more extensively and on which we know there are, there is science behind it to really show that immediately if you do the sigh breath, you impact positively your nervous system and your state. Yeah. So, yeah.
So that's on the breathing. Then when you talk about movement, what should one think about when thinking about movement?
Yeah, so the principle of movement in sophrology, it's at the beginning when you're learning to ground yourself in the present moment through movement. And we have movement for we divide the body into 6 regions: head and face, neck, shoulder, arms and hand, chest, abdomen, pelvis and legs. So these are the 5 regions, and the 6th one is the entire body. So in order to create a more refined body awareness in a way and become more subtle in the way you feel your body, we activate these different parts of the body, a bit like you would do in asanas, basically, but it's asanas for people who are on the go without the mat and without having to change and you activate. So, example, the head and face, we have exercise like where you exhale, inhale, hold your breath, and gently turn your head from side to side whilst you hold your breath. And when you need to, you exhale. And then you notice the sensation. For the shoulders, we have things like that where we gently pump the shoulders up and down like this whilst you hold the breath. And then for the chest, we have things where we rotate. For the abdomen, we have a bit like the fire breath. And it's all, so we have all of these moves and we practice them in a state of relaxation, standing, and we alternate between standing and sitting, so that when you create awareness around the movement, you can't escape feeling your body. And that's how you start to create that connection, because yoga originally, it's not to be fit in the sense that we understand it in 2026. Asanas were there to become more aware. It was all about awareness and how you create this connection with your body so you can expand your awareness. So the essence of this has been taken and rethought into a model that is easy to action, because those practices you can do at your desk, or you can do waiting at the post office. There's little steps you can do and you can energize yourself with these, or ground yourself, or process an emotion through these. Yeah, so they become very easy, simple practices that you can integrate. For example, when you're about to do a speech, for example, in front of an audience, and you have too much adrenaline, and your breath starts to, be difficult, and you wonder how you're gonna speak to an audience, you could actually use the pump exercise and release all the tension consciously before you start talking. You could just, sometimes I do that at the airport or in the toilet at the airport or somewhere, just because I need 2 minutes of grounding and recentering myself before doing the next thing. And you can use that, you don't need to have 20 minutes at hand, you know. The more you practice this, the more they become you, yeah.
In fact, yesterday there was a Champions League football game.
Yeah.
And one thing I've always noticed is when when the player is supposed to take a penalty,
Yeah.
the 3-4 seconds before they take the penalty, they seem to do all of this. They're
Total.
like, they take a deep breath, they let it go, they're this thing, their shoulders. And so it probably adds a lot of focus right before an important act of taking a penalty.
Yeah.
Right?
And you can access this wisdom of your body and mind in tense moment, like the example you just gave, because you've practiced outside of those moments. So it's because a footballer maybe has 15 minutes a day where he does practice mind-body connection, that in the moment when the stress and the cortisol is high, he's still able to go back. So it's like training for the piano. You know, you have to train a little bit, but the beauty is that you can rewire your brain. Now we know that. We know scientifically that when you do those exercises, they impact how you can access your resource, and therefore it just takes a bit of training, yeah.
And then let's talk about visualization, Dominique. How do you think about that?
So visualization in sophrology is used mainly in this second degree. So once you've done the body awareness, being in the present, you start to learn about the mind. Before you start to learn being meditative, you first explore the body, then the mind. So the mind is able to do so many beautiful things, you know, like it can imagine, it can focus, it can expand, it can think about the future, the past. So visualization is one capacity of the mind that you can train, and it's useful when, for example, you want to bring about a sensation of safety. So you could, when you're scared, for example, or highly stressed, you could visualize something positive, a quiet landscape, or a bubble that surrounds you, or a place of safety that you know in the world. And then you can link that through a move or a breath. And every time you need on the go, you can bring about, close your eyes and bring this. It will immediately affect the way you breathe and the way you handle the moments. But you can also practice visualization in relation to the future, how you like preparing an exam, or if you have to go for surgery, for example, and you scare about it, you can visualize steps, how you're gonna deal positively with every steps. And although it might be a little scary to do that initially, the brain starts to release the stress and be able to handle that, which means that when you're actually living the experience, your brain has already seen those images many times in a positive way and knows it can go through this more peacefully, yeah? So because the brain doesn't know what's real when you visualize or you watch TV, what's not real and what is real, yeah? So for the brain, it's all an experience. So you can use that capacity to get a sense of confidence for the future through imagery, or creating a sense of hope, or also transform your idea of the future or the past, because we all have a relationship with our future or our past. If our past has been difficult, we only look at the things that have been difficult, but there are good things in our past. There are places where we did manage to have resilience, otherwise we wouldn't be here. And the more cool and hopeful we are about the future, the less worry we have in the present. So you can use visualization to actually train this relationship with the past and the future so that you can be at peace in the present. So visualization, in essence, helps us do that a lot, yeah.
Understood. Yeah, as you were saying, this one thought that became clear to me is, maybe intellectually we all know it, but when you said it, it's made it a lot more real. And that is, our brain can't tell the difference beyond a certain point of reality versus whatever it sees, it's processing. And so you might as well use it to your advantage.
Yes, totally. And it's simple, you know. And some people tell me, oh, I can't visualize when I close my eyes, I can't see anything. It's fine. In sophrology, there's nothing to succeed at. So you present it with a simple exercise. If you don't manage to do it, the fact you've shown up and tried it, it's already the training. And it doesn't matter if you can't see anything initially. It will come with practice, it will transform into something else. Something will arise from this that is positive by going back to it. And that's all you need to trust, basically. It's like you're learning to do something new. It's normal that sometimes you can't do it initially. Yeah, it's not totally normal. Yeah.
What will be really valuable for the community to hear, Dominique, is how is all of this put together in terms of real case studies? You have dealt now with so many people over so many years. Are there interesting examples of situations where someone came in with a problem, and then because they followed these practices,
Yep.
it changed their lives in a way that really, really mattered?
Yeah, so there's always an example I give. A lady, she was in her late 60s, and she came to me and told me, I've never slept in my life a full night. I've always had insomnia. I've tried everything possible on earth. And anyway, I said, let's try. Like I can never, you can never say what's going to happen. In sophrology, you practice, and sometimes you practice in relation to one issue, and then people discover along the way actually the issue that's behind sleep is something else, and then they see this issue, and then it's being addressed, and then the sleep goes. Yeah. So anyway, so it's a journey. Yeah. So you start somewhere and it's going to improve, but you don't know in what way, because everybody's different. So anyway, she started that journey. It took a while. I think it took 3 months. And after 3 months of going through the method, all this practice of grounding, regulating, one time during the session, she had this image that came through, because that's what you intuitively receive after a while when you're in that space. You see things, you feel things. And she recalled that when she was a child, her mom had 6 children, I think. So she never had time to say goodnight properly or do a routine with her. She was always like put in bed and switch off. And she had experienced a lot of anxiety as a child, being left like this because of the circumstances. And she had developed this aversion to this situation of sleep, basically. And she had never really realized it or where it came from. And she realized this at the end of a session. She told me, I reconnected with this sensation of fear in my body in relation to sleep. And I think 2 weeks later, she called me and she said, I had my first full night of sleep. I can't believe it. Like, I have literally slept the whole night. But I think if she had to find this from, like a story perspective, she wouldn't have found this information. And who knows if this is even the cause, it doesn't really matter at the end. She was sleeping. But it's really what all these information are inside us. And if you take the time to listen, eventually you will balance and you will create new resource and new confidence into your ability to sleep, for example. Yeah. But it's not magical. And it took a while, because after 65 years or 70 years of not sleeping, there is nothing except a pill that will make you sleep on the spot, but the pill will never solve the true issue behind the problem. So it's a temporary solution that can be really useful, but it doesn't really heal the cause of your issue with sleep. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's a lovely story, and I'm sure there are many, many more such examples that you have seen. Dominic, when you look at the impact it has on parameters that can be measured, like you said, there are certain things that cannot be measured, and like she slept, there may be no other impact other than the fact that she could sleep, but that is powerful enough. But things like breathing, that should improve their heart rate variability, their resting heart rate, have there been any studies done, or have you observed changes in measurable parameters
Yes.
because of this?
Yeah, so my job, I'm not a researcher, so my job has been very much to be with client and accompanying them in one-to-one or in group. So I'm very much in the experience of what sophrology can do. But looking at the research, we now have research on all the modalities that sophrology uses. So breathing, relaxation, mental imagery, movement. We know, and there is a good body of science showing that you do regulate with breathing. You benefit from relaxation. You can visualize and transform your state of mind. And there's also a growing body of science. It's still small in sophrology, particularly in Spain and France, that shows that sophrology, for example, helps with sleep, stress, pain management. There's also been stuff in relation with asthma in children. So there is a need for more specifically sophrology-based approach, and I think there are a few studies that are being done at the moment. But it's true that because it's all those modalities, including meditation, there's a lot of body of science that actually show the impact of meditation. So that's where we can ground the science of sophrology. Yeah.
You've written a book that has been very, very well regarded, very well read. What did you find as you wrote that book? Because it's one thing when you practice it every day, but now you have to put all your thoughts down officially. What was that experience like?
Sometimes I think the book came out of me, basically. It's kind of, if I had to write a second book now, I think it would be much more difficult. But that book, it's almost like all the knowledge I had received from the founder of Sophrology, which I was lucky to study with, and all the amazing sophrologists and the experience I've done, and really understanding the philosophy and the practice. I think it came out of me. Thanks God I had someone I could talk to about the structure and of the book. So that was really helpful for me to have a conversation with someone as I was writing, and someone who's got more experience than me with writing books. So that was, but it's then now when I read it, I'm like, oh, there's so much I would like to change and make it better. And like, of course, you never finish, but I think it came out quite naturally, strangely. I didn't suffer too much. I think I was so eager to share with the world something that has impacted me so much, and the passion you mentioned. So, I thought I'm going to tell my story, and then I'm going to explain what the two first level and a bit more about the other levels into that book, so people can, because I really think you don't need to do the full sophrology experience to benefit. You can really start with something small and get a good impact in your life. And I think I've tried to take this whole science and distill it in something that's useful for people on a daily basis, because at the end of the day, that's what people want. They want to see a change in their life. The philosophy of sophrology is interesting for those who have an interest in it, but I think the most important is to practice it. So my book has got audio as well, where you can actually practice the method. So it can help you around different topics, because at the end of the day, all I want is people to be experiencing the practice, because that's what brings about results. Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, we'll put a link to your book in the show notes, Dominique. I think I've already got a few requests for that, and we'll make sure to put that in. There have been, I'm sure, a large number of clients, not just regular people like us, but then also people who are, professional athletes or professional various areas. What is the thing that you have seen as commonality in all these experts who have come to you? Because there are so many tools out there available.
Yes.
they come to you with something very specific. What is it that they come to you for?
The athlete in particular, you mean, yeah? I think it's often on the emotional side. So, for example, I remember a client who was a tennis player, a young 19-year-old tennis player in England, working at national level already. And she was struggling with her emotions when she was in the last point and things were very close, and she was losing her temper, and that often made her lose the point. So she said, how can I change the way I feel this moment and engage in this moment to be able to win the point and stay calm? So of course we started to practice, and I showed her ways of rapidly being able to ground herself within the movement of tennis. Almost, you have to adapt it to the reality of each person. And so not only she managed to create a little signal with the toe that, when she curl a little bit her toes, she can access that state of relaxation and confidence that she needed. So it's almost you pre-program the brain to be able to quickly access that place inside you. And also what she realized with sophrology, because you learn to relax and restore your energy, she realized that one of the reasons why she lost her temper was because she's tired, and she was someone that studies, travels by bus every day to go to training. Her schedule was incredible. Like I said, like, how can you stay in this? Like, your body is gonna get really tired if you carry on not resting and being always in action. So through sophrology, she learned to regulate her days and to, for example, use the bus time as a real relaxation, recuperation time, where she was just listening to the guidance and really learning to restore her energy. And I think a lot of people, athletes and people in general, underestimate the quick ability we have to restore our energy with some really gentle practices, and that how different you feel when you're rested. Everything you experience in your life when you're rested is going to be more manageable, and rest is very underrated, I think, in our society. So a lot of sports people actually need to trust that rest is efficient. Yeah. So
Yeah, I think this last statement you made was a topic that I think came up last week as well, that rest is not an option. Sleep is not an option. In fact, sleep has got some of the most critical functions in the body are happening during sleep. So while we think the whole body is shut down, it's not. And similarly with rest, even if you're just sitting in a chair, there's a lot of recuperation happening, which is critical. So I think that's a point that many of us need to take away, that rest does not mean we are not working. Rest allows us to work that much better when we get to it. So a lesson that all of us have to keep reminding ourselves. I think the society views that as downtime. It's not downtime. It is actually stuff that you require critically. Otherwise, when it's called downtime, it feels like it's an option.
Yeah, exactly. It's the cycle of life and the cycle of nature of the body. Everything goes in a cycle, and our cycle in the day for our body is to have moments of rest and moments of activity. And if you don't respect that, the basic of the system, at some point the system will not be able to sustain itself. So
my favorite example, Dominique, is I used to at one time think that instead of doing strength training 3 times a week, if I did it 5 times a week, it would be even better. But what I learned was that your muscles don't build when you're doing strength training. They build when you're taking the rest. And so if you do 5 times a week, you're getting that much less time to rest. So all you have managed to do is break down your muscle during strength training, but not have enough time to, do the synthesis and get it all back stronger. And so that is a great example that applies to every aspect of our life, not just strength training.
I
Right?
agree.
Even in the with sleep, it's actually a lot of the memories that we have gotten through the day, they consolidate only during the night, during REM sleep. And so there is no value in learning a lot if you're not going to sleep when it's actually getting put into long-term memory. So whether it's strength training, whether it's sleep to get all your knowledge in one place, it's rest is something that is critical. And in many ways, what sophrology helps with is that practice
Yes.
of giving yourself the time to consolidate.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It reminds me of a story. My parents, they always say that I did my baccalaureate, this like exam you do around 18 by sleeping, because I had started sophrology since a few years, and they were very worried, am I going to succeed my baccalaureate or not? And they saw me practicing sophrology intensively during that time. And I was actually taking a lot of rest because my sophrologist had told me ways to work with the learning efficiently. And then she said, and then you stop, you can't study more in the evening. I want you to go for a walk and go to bed. And I was so relaxed during the exam. My parents were really worried. They say, I think she's going to fail. Like, she's too relaxed. And they always remind me, oh, yeah, you did your baccalaureate by sleeping. Yeah. Which is true, I was efficient to study. And then I was like, I'm not studying anymore. I'm consciously resting my brain to be able to study again tomorrow and be efficient. Yeah.
Now I'm beginning to rethink what my sister used to say when we were younger. She was always giving her brain a rest. Now I'm wondering whether it was really an excuse or it was actually real rest.
Yes.
I should ask her this question. I know we're running out of time. So, Dominique, let me ask you another question and then see if there are any audience questions. But a lot of the practices, whether it's, yoga, whether it is just regular meditation, there's so much common, right? There are different ways of looking at the same problem. Is that how you think about all of these different practices?
Yeah, I think every practice has to work for you. So my message to you is to try something and to see how it works and to choose the one that feels more sustainable to you, because change only comes with repetition. So, when you were saying about those 3 times versus 5 times of going to the gym, I know I can do 2 times a week, and that's my sustainable rhythm as a mother, a business owner, for now, this is that. Maybe in 5 months' time, I can increase but what is sustainable? What speaks to you? And I think yoga has the element of movement and stretching and strengthening, which, for example, sophrology hasn't. Sophrology is more a nervous system reset, like almost emotional, mental health reset. It's accessing the aspect of consciousness that you have in yoga in a quicker way, because people who, for example, can't move in the way of yoga can actually access all those states without having to do all the movement if they can't, for example. Sport is essential for other aspects. Meditation has its place as well. Meditation is suspending your judgment. It's observing without judgment. That's a capacity is very useful. But if meditation is not possible for you, you might want to try the physicality of sophrology and the more of the diversity of sophrology, because that might bring you to the place you're hoping to go. So for me, everything is complementary, and at different time of life, we need different things. But I think staying open-minded and trying things is how we know what works for us and what doesn't. Yeah. And I think we need to keep that open-mindedness. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I know there are a lot of questions coming in, but they're not showing up in the chat window. For example, I think Sarita, you asked a question, but it's I can see it for some reason in my Gmail. Maybe it's because of the new system we're using. But if you've asked a question, can you just get off mute and ask it, because I can't see them in the chat window.
Sorry. Hi, Nikhil.
Yeah, hi Sarita, go ahead.
So my question was specifically regarding Parkinson's patients, because some of them, or rather most of them, do face a lot of anxiety. So in your practice, have you worked specifically and have you seen any benefits that Parkinson's patients can get?
Yep, I haven't worked with Parkinson patient, but I will work with a lot of MS patient, multiple sclerosis, and actually all the aspect of training the mind to retain certain movements, like to be able to use visualization to visualize certain types of movement that are becoming restricted, in my experience, have helped patient to retain some mobility, in small degree of mobility that for them made a huge difference. For example, also the sense of all the aspect of emotional health, when you're going through a difficult time like that, the sense of hope, the sense of, awareness of transforming this relationship with the situation you're in and gaining a different perspective and some sort of freedom within that constraint. I think I've seen this shift in perspective in people, in their way to approach life, and the fact that they went into more depths into themselves has given them more resilience to cope with the difficulty they are facing. So it's a subtle shift, but it's actually, in this situation, it's a big help. Yeah.
Sarita, did that answer your question?
Yes, it does. But again, just another additional question. So I know that you will not be able to give a firm answer, but typically how long would they need to work on it to see some change? Is there any guideline?
Yeah, I think for those more chronic condition, it's usually more of a long-term approach. We always say if you do between 6 7 sophrology session, you get a toolbox, an initial toolbox that will help you to deal with a lot of things already that you can practice quite easily. And then usually we reassess with the client and say, okay, let's do a first few sessions, see how you get on, see where it takes you. And then we reassess with them and say, where are you now? How is it feeling for you? Where do you want to go with this? And we can add. So my answer is basic tool can be acquired very quickly. Deeper transformation and transformation of perspective takes more time. So I think you can work at different depths, and the more depths you go, the more time you need. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Dominique, I know you've done group sessions as well as individual sessions. Do you still do both?
Individual session, I do a bit less because I'm building a new product in the wellness space on sophrology. So at the moment, I do less one-to-one. Group, I do a little bit still, but I've done for 22 years, and I've also got a team now who does the one-to-one, who does the team. I do corporate work as well sometimes, like for a corporate or for an institution or for a charity, it's at the moment I do a bit less because I'm working on something, but it's really it's been my day-to-day for more than 20 years. Yeah.
We'll take the information for your group sessions, Dominique, because Kruti I asked a question, are you accepting new appointments? So whatever the ways to do that, we can put a link to that in the show notes. Nadia said, everything you said is so very true, very similar to yoga and mindfulness, because she's a yoga and mindfulness teacher for young kids. Thank you for sharing. She said, there's another, thanks for this important insight. Rest is a need, not a reward to be earned to show up as a healthy human on this planet in all our relations. So you've had a number of different people make comments. On that note, I think we are just out of time. So Dominique, thank you so much. I think the community will show you their love through the emoji thing, but it was very, very helpful. Thank you. As always, you make things fun and interesting and more importantly, practical. So
Yes, thank you.
I hope we can all put some of this to work, and we'd love to have you back.
Yeah, thanks for all the heart. Thank you for being there. Thank you, Nikhil, for having created this wonderful, much needed space, for people to learn and to develop. And it's amazing. So thank you for having me. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you all. Good evening, good day, and good night.
Yeah. Good night.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.